for this session, the alumni session, it will be me, Matthew, and also joining us is Ivan. Ivan is also a former postgrad from in Southampton, and now he's teaching in EEE. So I myself was a mechanical engineering student. So I spent 2 years in Malaysia, Johor, Southampton Malaysia, and a year abroad in the UK as a mechanical engineering student for my degree program. So we will guide you through and show you through how the life in Southampton as a student, and show you our perspective, right? So without further ado,
yep.
Let's jump in. Also, yeah, for the first session, it will be me. I'll be showing some of the stuff that I've gone through with Southampton Malaysia and Southampton UK. And for the second part, which is about half an hour later, it will be Ivan. He'll be showing you more cool stuff in the UK. And you guys are free to ask questions between. Yeah. So a bit of background before we start. I took the mechanical engineering course many years back. It was in 2013, if I remember it correctly. So obviously it's a long time ago, but a lot have changed, obviously, especially in the development section in Johor, and also changes in UK as well, as we know from UK being a part of EU, and now UK Brexit, and we've lived through that era. So let me show you, how does a year 1 student feels like or learn in the Southampton Malaysia. So personally, what I think the strength of Southampton Malaysia is like what a lot of the other people have just mentioned: good ratio on staff and students. Right? I personally feel like this is really important for me, because as a student, I really want quality feedbacks, or when I feel particularly challenged by certain subjects, I can actually speak to my lecturer and discuss about it, and they are really helpful in terms of guiding you. And office is quite a I would say friendly, has a friendly vibe, because they are really open to discussion, right? You can just go to the office, speak to your lecturer, and if they're free, they will talk to you. Otherwise, you can set up an appointment with your friends, to discuss about the lectures held. Yeah, and another thing is conducive study environment, which is really important for students. We have ample of space in Southampton, huge library, with plentiful resources in terms of books or online digital resources, reading material. We also have computer facilities for the students, and printers, and also workshop for design projects. We have good inter-university bonding between University of Reading, Newcastle, and MMU, because we are in the same location, Iskandar Putri. Obviously, it wouldn't change, it wouldn't affect our relationship after we've moved to a bigger building, because we're still within the vicinity. And I think every Wednesday is like co-curriculum. So we'll get together, do some sports, and annually we have like sports days between universities, where students will compete in different sports like swimming, frisbee, futsal, you name it. So it's a really fun environment to study, because you get to mingle with so many other university students. Yeah. And accessible entertainment and services. Eco-botanic, which is another development area, a commercial area, just right next to Southampton, Malaysia right now. But very soon we'll be moving into eco-botanic, where the commercial area is just within walking distance, which is really good for students. And Pinda, which is another town area just nearby, 5 minutes drive, where you can get your shoppings and also entertainment like cinemas. Singapore is also very close by. Second link is in fact 15 minutes away by drive. So last but not least, the challenging project-based learning, which I really enjoy. So I'm going to show you a video on what I actually did as a first-year mechanical engineering student. Quadcopter, right? It might not seem very exciting at the moment because it's everywhere. Quadcopter, you can find it. But back in the days, 2013, I feel like quadcopter is such a new thing that we actually built this from scratch. So it was really challenging because there wasn't really much material or resources online that we can actually learn from. So yeah, just gonna show you something real quick. So this is the workshop that we used to work in. Very crowded. We have 3D printers. And here we are testing our quadcopter. So obviously, there's a lot of problems when you're in a group design project. So there's a lot of testing involvement, and after the testing, you have to make some adjustment and test it further, like what you see right now. After the adjustment, our quadcopter can actually fly better. So people getting frustrated. It's all part of the process. So it's really fun. Like in a university environment, this is what you would imagine, right? People coming together, people like you yourself with your friends, working together in a project, pulling a all-nighter, trying to make things work. When you finally see the final product working, you have this sense of achievement that is very satisfying. So okay, I'm gonna not bore you with the video too much and get to the next bit of the presentation. So year one done. Wow, really quite a lot of stuff going on when you're as a year one student. But wait till you see year two. So I'm just gonna put one of the highlights that I really enjoyed in year two. So it's Eurobot. So for my Eurobot is an international robotic contest dedicated to universities and robotic clubs. So I really like this challenge because it combined two disciplines of engineering, the mechanical and the electrical part of it. Although I myself is a graduated as a mechanical engineer, but we have to know bits and pieces of all different disciplines. So it makes us more all-rounded when we are at the workforce. Okay. So also, from my understanding, Europort is now no longer available for our course. So we have replaced this with another design project, but it's also really similar. But nevertheless, I'm going to show you, some of the footage that I have when I was a year two student. So fast forward, to the fun bit. So basically, the challenge is to design a robot that moves around autonomously, which means on its own, to do some challenges. So you see it. So the one on the left is my robot. All right. Yeah, I'm gonna pause the video. So yeah, when I talk about like you know, robots, robot war, you might think about robot coming together and destroy each other. But in principle, when you're an engineering student in a university environment, you try to do it more in a civil manner, where the robots actually do some other tasks to complete some tasks to gain some points, like the one that you just see. Right? It's really fun, as a student. I have to say, like coming together, do some projects. You see a lot of students having fun over there, laughing at each other. Although it's a competition, but nevertheless, we put in a lot of effort, trying to give our best into making our robot work and competing with each other. So yeah. So and like what Dr. Xiaoyong just mentioned, in university environment, you have opportunities like internship. So I managed to work with Dr. Johan, which is one of my thermophilia lecturers. And during the summer, I was working as a research intern in the lab. So I was making some biodiesel. So there's a lot of chemistry involved, chemical involved. And I also designed my own chemical reactor during my internship period. That's the chemical reactor that you're seeing. And the chemical reactor is supposed to make some chemicals. So in this case, this is a biodiesel, which we have tested in a diesel engine. We also I've also represented UniST to join a invention fair, Pachipta, in 2017 with the chemical reactor that we designed. And yeah, we were very lucky to also win some prizes as well. So yeah, lots of opportunities when you're studying in university like Southampton. So yeah, that's me. So here's the exciting bit. Things are getting more excited as you proceed to year 3, because you're going to UK. More unfamiliar places. I would say not Malaysia if you're not Malaysians. So like what we've mentioned. So our engineering courses has multiple disciplines that we can specialize later on. So from mechanical engineering, I've decided to specialize in mechatronics in my 3rd year. And also, like every other year, we have design projects. But this time, we have to do it alone. It's a solo project, individual project. So my project was on converting a lawnmower engine to run on hydrogen gas. So I like this particularly because working in a team and working alone is really different, because working in a team, there's a lot of coordination going on. There's team leader, there's also team members. Everyone's trying to taking up different tasks. But if you're working in a project alone, you have to do all these small little tasks alone yourself throughout entire year. Meet up with your supervisor, brief your supervisor about the progress, buy the materials required for the project yourself, meet with other experts to discuss about your project and see if you can get some ideas from them. So it's really fun. You're the project manager yourself. You're the project execute. You have to execute the project yourself. You have to buy the project yourself, buy the project materials yourself. So I'm going to show you the end product of what I've made. So it's basically an engine that runs on hydrogen gas. So that's me cranking the engine, and some of the parts that I've made with a 3D printer. Yeah. So I got it to work, but it wasn't really amazing. My engine only managed to run for I think a minute plus. But you can see there's a lot of interesting bits over here that I've utilized in my project. So the green little bits, they are all 3D printed. So imagine this, I'm using a 3D printed object in an engine, right? which rotates to 1,000, maybe 1,000 RPM or more. So there's a lot of things that you can do to before I actually mount my parts on the engine. I have to run like simulations on software to see if they will actually break or not. So yeah, very interesting experience that I had. So of course, right after I graduated in third year, yes, you can actually graduate in your third year with a BEng. So it's a bachelor degree. So that's what I decided. I worked with a company near London which produces parts for hybrid cars, electric cars. So that opportunity came to me due to the career fair in university. So interestingly, every year we have a university career fair where we invite partners from all over UK and Europe companies. They will come to Southampton, set up a booth, and you can actually go talk to them and see, how you can actually apply a placement opportunity with them. So that's what I did, and I managed to land a 3-month internship with the company, which is great experience. Honestly, it looks good on CV. It gave me a lot of insight about the industry, and yeah, and experience working in UK, which cannot be replaced, obviously. Also, there are other major career fairs that happens all over UK, in London, also in Southampton, that we occasionally travel just to gain more experience. Yeah. And last but not least, the fun bit. So in the UK, especially the summer, you have to not miss barbecuing in the Common Park. So Common is a huge park just right next to Southampton campus that we actually go to very often for sports, for leisure, or even for picnic barbecue. In this case, you can see me over there, just enjoying myself in the summer. And although you're in the UK, but we never forget to celebrate festivities such as Chinese New Year, or Hari Raya, Ramadan, etc. So it's very interesting because unlike in Malaysia where everyone just go back to their hometown and celebrate, we as a student we all gather together and celebrate together, despite of culture or races. All of our friends come together. We have a huge potluck event. People, it's just a happy time. And visits and traveling, you do a lot of visit and traveling during holidays like Easter's and Christmas. So I went to the Stonehenge with my friend. And snow, if you're lucky, in Southampton you get to see snow. That's me, interacting with snow for the first time in my life. I can't believe it's in Southampton because Southampton is really close to the sea, and it almost never snows. So this heavy snowfall only happened like once. The last one happened 10 years ago. So I was really lucky that it happened when I was there. So this one lasted for 3 days, which the university actually has to close down because we weren't prepared for the snow. But I was really happy. So that's basically it for my presentation. I'm just here to show you, my perspective, my take on the university as a student. So if you have any questions, you can leave it in the comment below. I'm gonna answer it, and I'm gonna pass the baton to Ivan right now.
All right. So I'm going to talk a little bit about my life there in the UK and how's it like being an alumni. Okay, Matt has already shared with you most of the Malaysian lifestyle and his time in the UK, but I figured I'll share more about my time in the UK because as a postgrad student, my time in the UK mirrors most of the undergrad students with a bit of a difference here and there. So just a little bit of self-introduction. I took my PhD in the University of Southampton, obviously. I specialize in mainly carbon-based environmental sensors. So I work for the Nanoelectronics Research Group and Mechatronics Research Group. Now the Nanoelectronic Research Group has been changed to Sustainable Electronic Technologies. So mainly, as you can see, I work in the clean room. So right now, I'm going to talk a little bit about a day in my life. So this here is a picture of me taken back in the days when I was taking my PhD, next to one of my favorite machines for a PhD, the plasma lab. All right. So how's it like starting a day in the UK? So here it is. I stay in this halls of residence here. This is called the Glen Air Halls of Residence. It's one of the nicest quiet place in Southampton. This, as you can see, is a hall, and this room right here is my room, as well as this arrow pointing there. So I got a nice sunny room in the ground floor, and every morning I'll just come out from this door and cycle all the way to work. It takes me about minutes, and there's a selfie of me, happy and ready to start my day. So once I reach the university, for me, I'll go to the office, but for most undergrad students, you either go to the class or you hang out at the library. So in a certain sense, the library is like your office. This guy here, that's Jamie, he's a postdoc. It means that he's got his PhD, but he's not a lecturer, he's doing full-time research, and he's kind of like my mentor. When my supervisor's not around, he'll assign Jamie to look after me. So this picture is taken when Jamie's just checking out on me, just to make sure I'm doing my work, you see. And that's him and me in the lab. So this is my typical, office setup. You guys would probably be staying in the library most of the time. My office mates. The office is actually, split into bays. So this guys here, they happen to be within my bay as well. And this is the exterior view of my office, the Mountbatten building. So interestingly, you can see this yellow bit here, and then there's a lot of glass window here. This is actually the Nanofabrication Center. I'll talk more about that later. So it's either you go to the office, you sit down, and sometimes we do have class as well, just like a grad student. But our class is more sparse in between, because most of our work is actually research. But we do have classes, lectures, sometimes workshop and discussion groups. We have classes where we learn how to write technical reports better. We learn how to present better. We learn how to manage our time and things like that. We have lectures, technical lectures actually, to basically enhance our knowledge. Although for a PhD it's mainly research-based, we are allowed to take lectures to enhance knowledge that we feel like we're not so good yet. We're not, it's not enough for us, so we need to enhance it. And we also have workshop sessions, because things like this, we sit down, we discuss, we come up with ideas. For example, presentation workshops, where we have to get in a group, we have a topic, and then we come up with a presentation within that short span of time. And of course, we always have discussions. And the nice thing about studying in the UK is you meet people from all around the world, right? And you start to get used to this global mindset, and it helps you to be a better global citizen in a way. And you notice that everyone comes from a slightly different culture, and some culture, for example, Asian culture, we are more soft-spoken. We don't project ourselves as much. So we learn to adapt. You see, learn to see, oh, so different culture reacts differently, and how would you encourage participation? And if certain group members, they are being more dominant, how would you bring up your courage to speak out and things like that? It's very helpful. I find that really helpful. And the fact that they got people not just from engineering, but people from business, from arts coming together and do discussion, that's a really great experience for me. So moving on, the next big part of my life is the Nanofabrication Center. This is where I spend most of my time, if I'm not in a class and not in a lecture, I would probably be in the nano-fabrication center. So for the first part of my UK visit, when I was there for a year, I spent a lot of time in nano-fabrication center. First, a few months for training, and I was trained, and then I was doing my device fabrication. And this is, in a sense, a PhD is just like Matt's final project, you see. It's one project that you have to take charge of. You have to plan your time, you need to know what to do, and you carry that project forward. And your supervisors are there to, of course, offer support and guide you. See, this yellow pictures here, they are taken in a really interesting place. It's called the yellow room, as you can see. So the nice thing about the yellow room is that there's no light in the blue or UV region because we're doing photolithography in there. As you can see this big machine here. It's a process of transferring an image to a polymer, basically, by shining UV light on it. And in order for the polymer to not harden, right, due to external light, the whole room can only be lit with yellow light. So there's no blue component within that light, which would, of course, spoil our project. This is one of my first silicon wafer. So we did this after my training, basically. This is the last step of my training, and we etched up the logo. It's a little bit offset, but I was quite happy with it. I still keep it as a souvenir. And this, you can see here, is an ellipsometer. It allows you to tell how thick the film is when you deposit something on the film, on a silicon wafer, which is, again, very interesting. Here is a sample of my logbook, and don't be surprised when you start, your studies here in Southampton. You'll be trained to log everything you say. At least for an E&E student, you'll be given a logbook which you have to fill in every time you go to the lab, right? There's no fixed format, and you have to basically just write down your observations and what you have learned and your reflections during the lab. And it's a good practice because if you go further, if you further your studies to do a PhD after your MEng, you need to know how to do it, basically. Here is a really nice rainbow that I've kind of fabricated by having different layers of nanocrystalline graphene on. And this picture is really fantastic. It's one of my favorite pictures. It shows the glowing white plasma that we use to pattern our device. So the white area here is actually plasma. And if you think about it, plasma is just like fire. It's like fire, but it's being controlled by electromagnetic fields within the chamber that we use. And this here, obviously, is a picture of me wearing full protective gear, right? And I was joking to my friends the other day saying that, yeah, I should have brought mine back, the protective gear, and wore it when I go shopping. But anyway, moving on. So for the second part of my PhD, as you can see, it's mainly in lab, which is not in a fabrication center. So I've already fabricated my device. As you can see, this is this really small thing. It's my device, and I find it really interesting working with things that are so small that you need a microscope just to get the probes right. So right here, as you can see, you can't see my devices because it's too small, but it's where the LED is pointing at. So a huge part of my work actually is designing gas sensors, which again is a specialization that you can go to. Like if you attended Dr. Xiaoyong's talk about EEE, you see that he talked a bit more about how to use different sort of sensors, and you learn how to design sensors from scratch. So a huge part of my work revolves around designing air pollution sensors, and this is one of the samples that I have. And we put it in vacuum chamber, so we can remove all the air within the chamber, and then we pump in a certain sort of gas that we want to analyze. And here, what I had was I set up kind of like a workstation that does all the data acquisition automatically. And the nice thing about being in EEE again is that you're so multidisciplinary, right? So a lot of my friends were in the same lab with me. Some of them who took physics, and they had to do a lot of manual, experiments. And look at me, it's like, wow, you can actually automate the whole process. And say, yeah, well, you just need to, learn how to code, how to write a program that does that for you. You see, even though I'm not a full IT graduate, I'm not a computer science graduate, but the skill set that I've learned as an EEE graduate has given me a lot of freedom to do things in different ways. Okay, and after a crazy work, back to home, this are mates. That's Carla, she's from Mexico. That's Dee, Sherry, Zhang, he's from China as well. And we have a lot of friends, coming over sometimes to have get together, talk. And this is in the summer. As you can see, we're happily going outside for barbecues, picnics. All I can say is, life in the UK is really good. Yeah, I mean, life in Malaysia is good, but my year in the UK was fantastic. Now here's a bit of an interesting experience. So I'm the kind of guy who can't stay still. I can't just be a student, you see. So I like to explore. When there's events in the university, I like to join in. So the first one here is quite interesting. It's a game hackathon. So for those of you who have never heard of hackathon before, it's like a marathon, but programming. So a bunch of guys get together and finish a certain objective within a space of maybe 48 hours or 72 hours to get something done. So this is the first time I joined a game in Southampton. So I partnered up with friends from the University of Portsmouth. Some of them were doing graphic designs. I was a programmer, and there's someone who's doing, I think, literature as well. So it's quite interesting to get all these people get together and actually build a game. We actually built and published a game within 72 hours. We took turns sleeping, and each one of us slept for like 2 hours at a time. This was a talk given by Mike Snedden. Basically, he was a guy who owned a really cool bike in Southampton, and the university thought it's going to be good to get him in to give a motivational talk to the postgraduate students. So I attended his talk. It was really inspiring. He was telling us about how he wanted to solve a problem that he felt like, okay, to music while cycling, but he doesn't like earphones. And he liked to have the music blasted really loud so people know he's actually nearby. So this is a bike that he designed and built himself from scratch. He has a DVD player and CD player installed right now, just like in the car dashboard. And he actually has a woofer, a subwoofer behind. It's cool, like it's really cool. And the university invites a lot of different and cool people to come in and basically to inspire the students to think in ways that are different from conventional classroom learning. And I feel like this is very important. What you can see here is the Mystery Machine. If you watch Scooby-Doo, you probably recognize this. It was there in the middle of the city, the art festival, I think, and I was lucky to bump into it. So I took a picture of it. And here you get a picture of me at the Common. So I'm pretty sure you heard from Matt's talk just now that it is a must-do while you're in the UK. And yeah, I did it, and I really enjoyed it. And here you get there's another event. Basically, you get this bike gathering at the city center. It's really interesting. You go there, you can see basically the residents of Southampton, who have big bikes. They're showcasing all the bikes. And this is the board game collections that our research group kind of have. So it's between us from the ECS and the optoelectronics research group. So there's a few board game enthusiasts within the groups. So we sometimes would gather in the common room, we call it. The last panel here is where we usually have lunch and hang out. So we'll have events once every month where we bring the board games and we start playing board games just to get rid of the stress. Really, PhD is a really stressful thing to do. So it's good to just let loose and relax. The other thing about Southampton is it's where Titanic set sail. So obviously I took a chance when I was there to visit the Southampton Titanic Museum, and I suggest when you're there, do the same as well. And Titanic Museum, you have the St. Mary's football stadium. You should go there, definitely must go there to catch a game if you could. And here is actually a live stream of the tennis tournament. It's a really nice experience in the summer where you have a lot of outdoor activities going around in the UK. Okay, so here are some pictures. That's Dr. Harold. He's my second supervisor. That's Swan. I think Swan's in the call as well. He's my supervisor in Malaysia, and Harold was my supervisor in the UK. So I was lucky enough to actually win the 3-minute thesis competition within my faculty as well in the UK. This is my research group. These guys here are from, the same research group, but like different bays. So basically they are sitting 2 bays away from me, which is really cool. That's a picture of me and my housemates. All this are actually memories, from the UK that's irreplaceable. And one of the highlights, again, of my life was the chance to go on international conferences. And this is the sort of experience that you only get if you're studying in a top university. So this is me in Portugal. I did a presentation in M&E, which is one of the flagship conferences for micro and nano electronics manufacturing. Then the picture down here is the IEEE Sensors Conference. Again, another big I managed to get into and present as well. So the thing that inspires me most about joining this conference was that they actually got the group who got the Nobel Prize in Physics. What happened was this group, they designed a sensor that detects gravitational waves. And I was there hearing firsthand their description, their story, how they come about designing the sensor, which is very long, underground as well, and has to be cooled down to a really low temperature to keep it stable. So I listened to them firsthand, how they got the data and how they confirmed the data with their collaborators in China, in different parts of the world, to make sure that, yes, they've finally gotten a signal from a gravitational wave and it's not an accident. It was very, it was a very truly fantastic experience to, be among the best. Right. And here, that's a picture of the smallest Eiffel Tower. Yeah, it was fabricated using this micro 3D printing technology that's available now. Right. So you've listened to my talk. You listened to a lot of things. Here's a few reflections that I'm going to give to you. Whether or not you joined Southampton Malaysia, of course, I hope you join. First picture, as you can see here, that's a felt sample, I call it. So the most important thing about studying, whether at undergraduate level or at postgraduate level, is to not give up. right? To get to this stage, actually, I spent months and months of work just because of actually a few mistakes in the fabrication cycle. We've got this buffering that happens on the pad, and that means that basically that sample could not be used in my work. So I have to start over again. But, you know, don't be afraid of failures. Do not give up. I'm really thankful that my supervisors are really helpful to give me advice on how I could work it out and not repeat the mistakes on the next time. And I find that really, really helpful, and it's a really good learning experience as well. Second picture here, that's the first time I've got a successful non-crystalline graphene wafer, basically. It taught me that we should appreciate simple things in life and take time to stop and appreciate beautiful things, you know, as we go on. Don't think about your failures, but think about what you have now, right? If you do get into Southampton Malaysia, you would have a lot of challenging times ahead doing projects, group works, and things like that. But amongst all this hustle and bustle of your undergraduate life, take time, slow down, and appreciate the beautiful things that you can see and you can observe when you're doing your experiments. And here you can see it's my attempt to to make the smallest Malaysian flag and the UK flag in my chip itself. So in my chip design, I put in all my PhD work stuff, and at a small corner, I try to, you know, fit in this Malaysia flag and the UK flag. It's not perfect, but it's getting there, you know. It's those kind of fun stuff that keeps you motivated, and that's my advice to my students as well. When you're doing your project, right, make sure you enjoy doing it, or else it's going to be torture. Make sure you enjoy learning and applying that learning to do fun stuff. So make sure you do fun stuff. And finally, as you can see here, from my trip, I've learned how to self-discipline. I mean, and at the start, you know, you'll be really tempted to just get pizza all the time. It's easy, but it's not very healthy. So eventually I learned how to cook. I make my own meal, and I try to manage my own time as well. So that is what you as a student would learn when you finish your university. It's not just the hard and technical skills, but it's the soft skills and it's a journey in life as well, right? So I'm just gonna end my session here.